webinar. Today's webinar is really focused on no code for salespeople to help you improve your sales process by automating tasks. Joining me today is my colleague, Yanina. She'll be the one interacting with you guys in the chat. So if you have any questions, you can drop them again in the Q&A box. All right, so as we start, a show of hands for those of you who are already customers of noCRM. All right, looks like the majority of you guys are, but we still have a couple who aren't. Thank you so much. Right, so to get started, we're actually going to go through a very simple agenda. We're going to go through a quick introduction of what noCRM is, and then we're going to go straight into what is no code, the fundamentals, and then jump into the demo to help you guys get started with no code. So why noCRM? noCRM was built because we've identified a problem, which is a lot of companies are facing a failure of their sales team to adopt CRMs. Mainly because, of course, selling is now organizing data, and the majority of CRMs in the market are really built around that. So it's more like for reporting and managers out there. Whereas we've noticed, of course, that selling is a process. We would like to accompany all of our customers from the moment they create a cold prospect up until they convert them to a paying customer. That way, we're enabling and supporting your team throughout the entire sales process. noCRM is used by over 11,000 sales reps and managers in over 80 countries, and we support 6 languages: English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, German, and Italian. We offer several plans that cater to 3 types of clients: entrepreneurs and micro companies, SMBs, and more sales-intensive companies that have larger teams. They do a lot of cold calls, and they generate a lot of leads. So these are the type of companies that go really well with noCRM. Jumping into what is actually this webinar about, no code. So what exactly is no code? No code provides an opportunity for people or companies who don't know how to code, don't know any programming languages, to create digital products or even connect different applications that they're using with each other, following a business logic, right? To further simplify it, let's say you want to get a chair. So if you're using coding, you would need to buy the wood, chop it, get the measurements right, put everything together, and then you have yourself a chair. Whereas no code, you want to get a chair, but it's like going to get a Lego set. You drag and drop all the components and get your finished product. The benefits of no code is, number one, you have faster development because you're not dependent on your tech team. So there's a quicker development time or deployment time. You're also saving money, and you are getting a lot of time by using no code. And it also offers flexibility. So while it's more limited than the technical development, but it's highly customizable and allows for quick changes. And lastly, it increases efficiency and collaboration. You can automate repetitive tasks, streamline processes, and improve communication and teamwork among employees. There are 2 categories of no-code products that we're going to that I'm just going to quickly introduce. The first one is, a couple of examples here, like Bubble, Airtable, Webflow, and Wix. Some of you guys may be familiar with them. So it allows you to build products or digital products from scratch. So you can actually build landing pages, web apps, and internal tools. And I think the majority of you guys already sort of use no code in your day-to-day. For example, if you are using something like a form builder, normally all the modern form building apps right now allow you to drag and drop the fields that you want to use in that form. That's a form of no code. So instead of writing down a code of what field comes on next, you're actually just dragging and dropping. The second category of no code allows you to automate and connect tools that we spoke about earlier. And the 2 applications that are widely known for that are Zapier and Make. So Zapier is incredibly easy, incredibly intuitive to use. It's perfect for those of you who are complete beginners. Whereas Make is a little bit more complex. It does require some more technical understanding. So we're going to go through Zapier today. And maybe in the future, we're going to maybe provide a webinar on how to use Make for more complex scenarios. To get started with some of the fundamental notions, basically, with any of these automation apps, you're going to create a workflow, right? A workflow consists of a sequence of events. It starts with a trigger and ends with an action or a series of actions. So if an event, a triggering event happens in app A, that's what we call a trigger, and it matches the conditions that you provide. This is, of course, optional if you'd like to enter a filter. Then you would ask the application to execute an action or a series of actions in app B, C, D, etc. You can even actually automate a workflow within the same applications. Like, I'll go through a couple of examples later, but just for now, if you want to have an example of executing actions within the same app, let's say you have a lead that's been won in noCRM, you can automate sending an email to that person or to that lead. So let's go to our very first automation. I'm just going to pause my screen here to create a new sharing session. All right, please let me know if you guys have trouble hearing me or you can't see my screen. Let me know in the chat box, please. Right, so today's workflow that I'm going to go through, I'm going to go through two workflows. The first workflow consists of a single step. And then the second workflow is going to be consistent of multiple steps, right? The scenario is as follows. We have a registration form on our website, and I'm using Typeform to create it. If you're not familiar with Typeform, maybe you're familiar with JotForm, Wufoo, etc. There are multiple applications out there, but Typeform is really nice to use, and it also creates a very interactive sort of form for your customers or your leads. So I've created my registration form here. And what I want to do is every time I have a form submission, I wanted to automatically create a prospect in noCRM, in a prospecting list of my choice, right? A very simple single step workflow. In order to do that, I'm going to go to apps and integrations at the bottom. And I'm going to look at their integrations app here. Right. As we're here, we're going to connect Typeform to multiple apps. If you guys have any problem with understanding the step that I'm taking, please, again, raise your hand and I'll pause and come back to it. Right. So here first, we have the trigger, which is the trigger that exists in the app Typeform, right? So my trigger event is going to be coming out of this application. The event here is a new entry or new submission. Once I've selected that, I can continue to connecting my Typeform account to Zapier. So it's actually this is, by the way, a list of the different accounts that we've already connected, and I'm going to show you how to connect it from scratch. This opens up a new a pop-up window that allows you to click accept and connect it. So it's very simple. You don't have to do anything. You just need to make sure that you're logged into your Typeform account in another tab, and it'll just ask you to accept the connection. So give it a second to load, and you can go ahead and continue. Once we're here, we're going to select the form that we want to grab those leads from, right? Which is my trigger event. Let's say I have a registration form, I have a contact form, I have a demo form, and I only want to add those that are coming in from my registration form. As this is a demo account, I only have one form available. So I'm clicking on this one, and I'm going to continue. And Zapier is going to go ahead and test this trigger. What that means is that it's going to ask Typeform to send it a sample of the answers that you have already in Typeform. So I had one response. It's going to grab that and use it as an example to set up this workflow. All right. So the questions that I have in my workflow are, let's start with your first name, Tim, your last name, Smith. What about your email address? They gave me their email address and the company name. And lastly, how many people do you have in your team? And they've inputted 6. So it's very simple for me to see all the responses here and the individual responses down here. For now, you don't really need to read this. You just know that it was successful in retrieving an entry. Okay. Next up, we're going to select the action that we want Zapier to execute if this trigger has been triggered, if this trigger event has happened, right? So we want to create the action in noCRM. And the event is creating a prospect, right? So adding a line in a prospecting list of your choice so that your team can start working on them. So here you want to choose your account or connect one if you haven't done so already. Again, it's going to open up a pop-up window and you need to add your account name. So in my case, it's marketing.corp. And then your API key. So an API key is basically an equivalent to your credentials. You don't want to share this one with anyone. You want to keep it safe just because, again, it's as though you would treat your own account password. So going into your noCRM account, you're going to go into your admin panel, your integrations, API, and you're going to generate an API key specifically for Zapier. So I'm going to create one. I'm going to name it Zapier demo. Go ahead and save it and then copy the generated key. Now you want to go back to that window, drop it. I think there is a space here. Okay, just keep in mind that you need to make sure that there's no space. I'm just gonna choose an account right here. Okay. Right, then I need to choose the prospecting list that I want to drop these submissions in. I have several lists, by the way, so I'm going to choose one that's called Rena's list of prospects. And I need all the form submissions to go into the specific column headers that I've created. So here we have lead name, first name, last name, email, and phone number. So lead name, you're going to scroll down, and normally you want to pick your company name, right? So scrolling down here, what is your company name? This is the answer I want Zapier to plug in the lead's name column. And then the first name, again, we're gonna scroll down, put the first name, last name, and email, etc. So I'm gonna keep it short and just go like this, and then go ahead and test the action. As you'll see, the action and the trigger are both successful. So now all I need to do is click publish. So this turns on your Zap, which means from this point on, anytime you get a new submission, you're going to automatically find it in your noCRM prospecting list. All right, so right here, immediately you'll see this new line, the Smiths and first name Tim. I didn't fill in these fields just because it's a quick demo, but that's where you're going to get. Now, the second automation that I want to show you guys is a more complex one. It's a multi-step workflow. So if I get a lead coming in from Typeform or a contact coming in from Typeform, I want it to automatically create a lead in noCRM. Sorry, before that, I want to introduce a condition. If you remember in my Typeform question, there is one that asks for how many people are in your team, right? So my condition is if this contact has less than 5 people in their team, I don't want you to create a lead in noCRM. But if it has more than 5 people in the team, then I want you to create a lead in noCRM. And I also want you to notify my team in a Slack channel. All right, is the workflow clear? So we're going to go back here. The entry is going to stay the same, but we're going to go ahead and change the action. So here, the event, we're going to change it from create prospect to create a lead. Right, so I want to create a lead directly in my pipeline. I'm going to continue, and then we're going to maintain that account. And we're going to go ahead and start filling in sort of the information that we want Zapier to populate the lead from. Again, we're going to go back to Typeform, and we're going to take the title once more, your company name, and then first name, Tim. So it's not always going to be first name Tim and the company name, the Smiths. It just tells Zapier where to go from the questions to actually grab that information. Okay, so as I said, I only wanted to create a lead if it meets my certain conditions. So in between the trigger and action, there's a plus icon. You can click on that and you hit filter. So once you're here, you're going to filter by only continue if, and I'm going to choose the question here, which is, how many people do you have in your team, right? And the condition is greater than, it's a number, right? And I said, if it's greater than 5, I want you to create a lead in noCRM, okay? So I'm going to hit continue. And it's only going to continue this ZAP right now with the testing if the sample data matches the condition, which it does. I put the response 6 people, so it's going to go further into the action. So now we're here. We're going to go ahead and test the action. And then we're going to click on the plus icon again to create a third action, which is sending, or second action, sorry, sending a Slack message in a Slack channel. So here we're going to click on Slack. This is the app. And we're going to choose the event, send channel message. You can also send direct messages. There are several events that are available to you guys, depending on the app, right? And I'll go deeper into that in a bit. So here, I just want to send a channel message. I'm going to click continue, and you want to choose your account or connect your account. Again, this is as simple as I have done with Typeform. All you need to do is sign into your Slack account, and then it's just going to ask you whether or not you want to give them access to it. I'm going to allow it, and it's as easy as that. So we're going to continue here, and now we're going to choose exactly what to write. So you want to pick your channel first. So I created a channel called leads, and then you want to enter your message. So hi, everyone. We've got a new lead here, and I'm going to choose to drop the name of the company, right? So it's going to automatically plug that in for me. Start working on it here. So the reason why I want to do this is because I also want to provide, so I'm going to go to create lead.noCRM and then scroll down. Until I find a permalink. What a permalink is it's the URL to that specific lead that came in through Typeform into noCRM. So and I'm going to show you what that looks like. You can go ahead and continue. You can select, by the way, who this message is coming from, but I always choose a bot, and then you can go ahead and test the action. Okay. Now going into my Slack channel, you'll see Zapier said, hi, everyone, I've got a new lead, the Smiths. So it's a tokenized sort of placeholder, automatically put in the Smiths. But if you had, let's say, McDonald's, get a McDonald's, start working on it here. If I click on it, it's going to take me straight to the lead. So I can work on it directly. Okay. So just to summarize, your trigger event was, if I get a new entry form in Typeform, I want Zapier to start my workflow. Before it starts executing actions in the applications that I wanted to execute them in, I want to put a condition. And my condition is, if this lead has more than 5 people in their team, then continue with this workflow. If it doesn't, stop the workflow instantaneously. So it will stop and it will not run anything. So if it matches my condition, it's going to automatically create a lead with all the fields that are going to be pre-populated from that Typeform submission. And then it's going to automatically send a message in your Slack channel, getting your team to quickly engage with the lead and increase their response time. All right, so now that we're done with our first automation, basically we can start talking about the limitations of no code, and in specific limitations of no code in applications like Zapier. It is limited by the triggers and actions that are supported by the application that you're using. So if the triggers and actions are not available in the app, you will not be able to perform the workflow that you want. So an example would be, earlier we saw Typeform, right? When I clicked on the trigger event, I only had one, which is entry submitted. If we take, let's say, noCRM, for example, this is just an example. I'll explain to you guys the different triggers that we support. But let's say the only trigger that we support is once a lead is created. And maybe your workflow is, once a lead has moved into my negotiation stage, I want to run a workflow. If this trigger event is not supported by noCRM, you will not see it on the list, and therefore you'll not be able to create that workflow. Okay, this is an example of the limitation of no code with automation platforms like Zapier. Okay. Luckily, though, with no code, we're actually heavily invested on the no code journey of a lot of our customers. So we have a great support of trigger events and action events. You will have a list of the full triggers and actions available on our website, on our No Code Academy. I think Yanina dropped the link somewhere, or she will drop it in a bit. There we go. But basically, what are the triggers? These are your triggering events. If you have a lead created, that can trigger your workflow. If there's any lead that has been modified or edited, it can also trigger. If you have a lead that has been assigned, deleted, the step changed to a specific step in your pipeline, like negotiations or meeting, that can launch a workflow. If your status has changed from, let's say, a to-do to a one or a standby, again, email received, commented on, or unassigned. From the client side, we only have one trigger, which is if a client folder has been created. A prospect, the same way. If a prospect has been created, that's going to launch something. Okay, so these are sort of examples of the different triggers that you can use. The next one is the actions. So you can execute any of these actions in noCRM. You can create a lead, you can add an attachment to a lead, you can change their status, you can change their step, login activity, and so much more. So we have them all here. We also have assigning a lead using round robin method. That's basically, it means you want an equal distribution of leads across all of your teams, so that especially for those teams that are chasing after a target, it's incredibly important that you don't have a team member that has, let's say, 9 leads and some of them only have 3. Using a round robin method, this ensures that you have an equal distribution of leads across all of your teams, so you're not really worried about manually checking each user. Okay, they have 3, then let me add 1 lead to this user. So this sort of takes care of that problem automatically. And if you guys have any other sort of actions that are not listed here or in the table that we provide, please feel free to reach out to us in the support chat, because we can easily add it and notify you guys of it. Next up, we have other points of integration in noCRM itself, right? So in the actions menu, I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but when you open up a lead card, there's an actions button at the top that you click on, and you'll see several actions that you can, that's either there by default or you can actually create yourself. So in order to create one, you would need to go to, again, our admin panel and then integrations, and then from there you can find the actions menu. To do that is very simple. Let's say I want to execute a search on LinkedIn. So if I click on the actions button of a lead, I want search in LinkedIn. I think this is done by default, but I'm just giving you an example. If it wasn't here, how to do it yourself. So normally, if you go to LinkedIn and you just type in the search box, Tim Smith, you're going to see this URL come up. If we break it down, you'll see the question mark here. This means it is the start of your parameters that you're going to enter in the URL. The URL is basically an address of where a file is on the internet, right? So the question mark here signifies the start of the parameters you're going to enter. The parameter 1 that we're going to be adding here are keywords. And this, again, you just go on LinkedIn, when you put in the name, you're just going to find the URL or readily available to you. And then here is where you start adding your parameter values. So instead of Tim Smith, because you're not always looking for Tim Smith, you want to launch this search on every given lead that you have. Then you will put in these codes for lead first name, and then this one signifies a space, and then lead last name. You don't have to memorize this, because once you go to the actions menu to set this URL up, we have actually shortcuts for you to enter these tokenized parameters. So this one, I didn't memorize it. All I did was click on first name, and it automatically plugged it in for me in the URL. Okay. The last way of using our actions menu is actually creating a manual trigger that you can use in Zapier. So earlier we were talking about automation, how to trigger a workflow automatically by having a specified trigger event. So sometimes you don't want to automatically trigger a workflow. You want to do it manually. Let's say you click on a lead and you want to send them one email template, and then automatically send your team a Slack message that you've already emailed them, something like that. You don't want it to be automatically done. You want to click on it and then start all the workflows. This is something that you can do in Zapier. It's exactly the same steps that we've taken, but instead of the trigger events being, you know, in a type form new submission, you actually do noCRM as the triggering event, and you hit the trigger manual trigger. You just name it. You can name it send template 1 or start workflow 1. That's it. That's the only thing you need to do on the trigger, and then you start defining your actions as we've done earlier. Okay. So that wraps up our webinar. We have all the information that you want here. My colleague Yanina has plugged them into the webinar chat. We're now open for further Q&A. Do we have any questions, feedback, or comments that we can integrate in our next webinar, or we can even cover in our next webinar?